In 1976, two guys with wooden planks and a piece of rope accidentally launched a global alien conspiracy, starting with the one that was literally just two dudes messing around in a wheat field. Crop circles. Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley didn't set out to fool the world. They just wanted to make a fake UFO landing site in a Wiltshire wheat field as a joke. But here's the thing, they picked their location right next to Stonehenge and Avebury, places already dripping with mystical energy. So when people found perfect circles in the crops, they didn't think prank. They thought aliens, and it worked way too well. Every year the designs got more complex, not because extraterrestrials were upgrading, but because other circle makers saw the media attention and wanted in. But here's where it gets interesting. Within the believer community, any circle proven to be human-made was called a hoax. An unexplained circle? That was genuine. The entire framework was built so evidence could never disprove anything. That's not science, that's a logic trap. But if you think flattened wheat is a weak foundation for alien theories, wait until you see what ancient civilizations carved into an entire desert. The Nazca Lines. The Nazca Lines are genuinely impressive. Hundreds of massive geoglyphs carved into the Peruvian desert, some stretching for miles, depicting animals, shapes, and patterns you can only fully see from the air. And because you can only see them from the air, people lost their minds. Erich von Däniken's 1968 book Chariots of the Gods proposed these were alien landing strips. That claim has been thoroughly discredited, but shows like Ancient Aliens keep recycling it anyway. Here's the thing, the Nazca civilization created these between roughly 500 BCE and 500 CE by simply scraping away reddish topsoil to expose the lighter ground beneath. No alien tech, no anti-gravity, just patience. The Nazca Desert gets less than 1 inch of rainfall per year, which is the only reason they're still visible nearly 2,000 years later. Wooden stakes found at the ends of lines confirm basic surveying methods. And archaeologists have linked the designs to astronomical calendars and rain invocation ceremonies. And in 1982, a small team reproduced the largest design. The Condor used only wood, rope, and a small-scale drawing. That definitively killed the impossible without advanced technology argument. The real story isn't aliens, it's that ancient people were brilliant engineers with simple tools, and calling their work alien is honestly kind of insulting. But if ancient lines on the ground seem tame, wait until we get into the people who claim aliens took them personally. Alien abduction accounts. The Betty and Barney Hill case from 1961 didn't just start the alien abduction phenomenon, it wrote the entire playbook. Large foreheads, pointed chins, slanted eyes, forced medical examinations. Every single abduction story you've ever heard traces back to one couple on a dark road in New Hampshire. Here's the problem, their memories were recovered under hypnosis, and hypnosis has a devastating flaw. Patients become highly susceptible to suggestion and false memory formation. Their own psychiatrists acknowledge this. And abduction stories don't stay consistent across cultures or eras. They change to match whatever aliens looked like in science fiction at the time. That's a massive red flag. But here's the killer blow. Since the rise of smartphones, abduction reports have dropped dramatically. If real abductions were happening, we should be drowning in footage. We're not. The Hills clearly believe their experience. But historian Matthew Bowman has argued their stress as an interracial couple during the civil rights era likely fueled the psychological distress that created the narrative. These stories tell us more about human psychology than about aliens. But if psychological phenomena don't impress you, wait until you hear about a signal that came from actual deep space. The WOW signal. On August 15, 1977, astronomer Jerry Eman was reviewing printout data from Ohio State's Big Ear radio telescope when he saw something that made him grab a pen and scribble "wow" in the margin. That single handwritten word became the permanent name for humanity's most debated potential alien contact. Here's why it mattered. The signal lasted exactly 72 seconds, which was the maximum duration the telescope could observe any fixed point in the sky. It displayed the exact intensity pattern you'd expect from an artificial transmission, and it originated near the hydrogen line frequency, the one frequency SETI researchers have always considered the most logical choice for alien communication. It checked every single box, but here's where the loneliness sets in. Nearly 5 decades of silence followed. Researchers pointed the Meta Array at it. Nothing. The Very Large Array. Nothing. Green Bank Observatory. The Allen Telescope Array. Nothing. 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 The signal has never repeated. META President Douglas Vakoch has stated that any legitimate SETI detection must be replicated for confirmation. Without replication, credibility is severely limited. And Eamon himself said in 2019 that the signal certainly has the potential of being the first signal from extraterrestrial intelligence. But potential is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. One man wrote "wow" on a piece of paper, and then the universe went quiet. But if you think unanswered silence is unsettling, wait until you hear about the chaos that unfolded in a New Mexico desert, the Roswell incident. Here's the funniest part about the most famous UFO case in history. The government created it, not the UFO, the conspiracy theory. On July 4th, 1947, a classified Project Mogul balloon, part of a top-secret program designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests, crashed on rancher Mac Brazel's property in New Mexico. The debris was tin foil, rubber, tape, and thin wooden beams. That's it. But here's where the military shot itself in the foot. Their own press office issued a statement saying they'd recovered a flying disc. They literally invented the UFO story, then walked it back within 24 hours, claiming it was just a weather balloon. The truth? Both statements were lies. The weather balloon cover was meant to hide Project Mogul. An FBI telex from 1947 described the recovered object as hexagonal in shape and suspended from a balloon by cable. It was always a balloon. The Air Force's 1994 report traced the debris to a specific Mogul balloon train, NYU Flight 4, launched June 4, 1947. The materials matched exactly, and yet the majority of Americans polled still didn't buy the explanation, which is the real punchline. The government ran a cover-up of something completely mundane, and that cover-up became the single greatest piece of evidence for alien contact. Roswell isn't proof of aliens. It's proof that when you lie once, nobody believes you when you finally tell the truth. But if Roswell's explanation is airtight, the next case is a lot harder to dismiss, because thousands of people saw it happen at the same time. The Phoenix Lights. On March 13, 1997, thousands of people across 300 miles of Arizona airspace watched lights drift silently overhead. It became the most widely observed UFO incident in American history. Here's the thing, there were two completely separate incidents that night, and both have been explained. The first was a 10 Thunderbolt jets flying in formation out of Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Military aircraft are exempt from FAA blinking light regulations, so instead of familiar flashing collision lights, witnesses saw steady, silent formation lights gliding across the sky. Mass misidentification. The second event was illumination flares dropped during a training exercise at the Barry M. Goldwater Range. The flares appeared to hover because rising heat created a balloon effect on their parachutes, then winked out one by one as they dropped behind the Sierra Estrella Mountains. Case closed. Except Arizona Governor Fife Symington held a press conference where a staff member walked out in a full alien costume. The public was furious. A straightforward military explanation got buried under government mockery, and a solved case became a cover-up. But the funniest part? In 2007, Symington admitted he personally saw the lights and genuinely believed they were a UFO. The governor watched a routine training exercise and became a believer. Astronomers still trace both events conclusively to A-10s and flares, but thanks to one catastrophically bad press conference, the Phoenix Lights will live forever as evidence. And speaking of people who saw things near military installations and came away convinced, let's talk about the most controversial UFO witness in history, the Bob Lazar testimonies. Bob Lazar is one of the most entertaining figures in UFO history, and I mean that as a genuine compliment. In 1989, this guy appeared on Las Vegas television with his face hidden using the fake name Dennis, and told the world he worked at a secret facility called S4 near Area 51 where the government stored 9 intact alien spacecraft in underground hangars. 9, not 1. 9. And here's the thing, he was incredibly convincing. He described the craft in detail, explained the propulsion systems, and dropped one claim that seemed impossible to disprove. He said the ships ran on element 115, an element that literally didn't exist yet. Nobody could fact-check something that hadn't been synthesized. But then 2003 happened. Scientists created element 115, named it Moscovium, and Lazar's supporters immediately called it Vindication, except the synthesized isotopes decay in fractions of a second, completely useless as fuel for anything. Then the credentials fell apart. Lazar claims master's degrees from MIT and Caltech. Neither school has any record of him. During the exact period he says he was at MIT, records place him at Pierce College in California, 2,500 miles away. His supposed role as a physicist at Los Alamos, facility records show he was a technician working for a contractor, and his personal history doesn't help. A 1990 prostitution ring conviction, federal charges for illegally shipping restricted chemicals, and a 2017 FBI raid on his business tied to a thallium murder investigation in Michigan. Lazar tells a fantastic story, but fantastic stories need evidence, and every verifiable claim he's made has crumbled under scrutiny. Still, if you think one man's testimony is controversial, wait until you hear about the military incident that left dozens of trained servicemen questioning reality. The Rendlesham Forest Incident, December 1980, a freezing English forest. U.S. Air Force personnel stationed at RAF Woodbridge report glowing objects descending into the trees. Sergeant Jim Peniston claims he walked up to a warm, metallic craft and touched it. The next morning, investigators found 3 ground impressions and burn marks on nearby trees. And then it got even wilder. 2 nights later, Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt grabbed a tape recorder and went out to investigate himself. He recorded everything live. You can hear him in real time describing a beam of light coming down to the ground. That audio tape gave this incident a level of documentation most UFO cases dream of, and earned it the nickname the British Roswell. But here's the thing, astronomers matched the blinking red light Halt was so fixated onto the Orford Ness Lighthouse, sitting miles away on the coast. The flash rate and position line up exactly with his recorded observations. The 3 landing impressions, local police and foresters identified them as rabbit diggings. But here's where it gets genuinely entertaining. There's a theory that the whole thing was an SAS revenge operation. In August 1980, SAS troop parachuted into RAF Woodbridge for security tests. The Americans captured them, beat them up, and reportedly called them unidentified aliens. So the SAS allegedly came back months later, rigged the forest with lights, colored flares, and black helium balloons on remote control kites. The entire British Roswell might have been elite soldiers pranking the Air Force. Whether it was a lighthouse, rabbit holes, or the most elaborate military prank in history, none of it points to aliens. But at least Rendlesham has explanations. The next case has been baffling scientists with hard data for over 40 years, and they still can't fully explain it. The Hessdalen Lights. Most entries on this list rely on blurry photos or eyewitness testimony. This one has actual scientists with actual equipment studying it in real time. Since at least the 1930s, bright white, yellow, and red lights have been regularly observed floating through a 12-kilometer stretch of the Hessdalen Valley in rural Norway. During peak activity between 1981 and 1984, these lights appear 15 to 20 times per week. They hover, they sway, they shoot across the valley at extreme speeds, and they've been doing it for nearly a century. Here's what makes this different from everything else we've talked about. Established scientific institutions took this seriously. The Italian National Research Council and Østfold University College launched the EMBLA program specifically to study these lights. Physicist Massimo Teodorini documented higher radioactivity levels near areas where large light balls had been observed, supporting theories involving radiant decay and plasma formation. This isn't conspiracy forum speculation. This is peer-reviewed research, and the leading explanations are genuinely fascinating. Combustion of airborne mining dust, macroscopic Coulomb crystals forming an ionized plasma from radon alpha particle decay, piezoelectric effects from quartz-rich valley rock under strain. One researcher even proposed a geological battery model where the valley's 2 sides act as electrodes with the Hesja River serving as the electrolyte. But here's the intellectual core of this entry. Unexplained and alien are not the same thing. The Hessdalen lights are genuinely mysterious and still occurring today. But the valley's unique geology provides multiple plausible physical mechanisms that don't require a single spacecraft. And if you think a geological mystery is strange, wait until something flew into our solar system from interstellar space and made every astronomer on Earth lose their minds. Ow, mew, ah. This one is different from everything we covered so far, and here's why. The person suggesting this might be an alien spacecraft wasn't some random guy on Reddit. It was the chair of Harvard's astronomy department. On October 19, 2017, the Pan-STARRS telescope in Hawaii detected something nobody had ever seen before. The first confirmed interstellar object passing through our solar system. It came from outside, swung around the sun, and headed back out into deep space. They named it Oumuamua, Hawaiian, for a messenger from afar arriving first. and it was weird. The thing was estimated to be roughly 10 times longer than it was wide, potentially up to a quarter mile long, and it was accelerating away from the sun faster than gravity alone could explain. That combination, the bizarre elongated shape plus the anomalous acceleration, is what made Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb publicly propose it could be an alien probe or light sail, and the media absolutely ran with it. But here's where it gets resolved. In 2023, a Nature study by astrophysicists Jennifer Bergner and Darryl Seligman offered an elegant explanation. During its long journey through interstellar space, cosmic rays bombarded Oumuamua's icy body and created trapped hydrogen gas inside it. When the object got close to the sun and heated up, that hydrogen escaped, producing just enough thrust to explain the extra acceleration. At Oumuamua's tiny size, that small force was more than sufficient. And since 2017, astronomers have identified 6 other small comets with the exact same characteristics. No visible halos, small non-gravitational accelerations. They're called dark comets, and they appear to be common throughout the galaxy. So Oumuamua was unusual, but not unprecedented. Still, the reason this ranks higher than previous entries is simple. For a genuine window of time, serious mainstream scientists were openly entertaining the alien spacecraft hypothesis. That's a completely different category from misidentified flares or debunked hoaxes. But if you think a mysterious interstellar visitor caused controversy, wait until you hear about the rock from Mars that made a sitting president address the nation. The Martian meteorite. In 1996, President Bill Clinton stood in front of cameras and told the world that NASA might have found evidence of ancient alien life, not from a signal, not from a spacecraft, from a rock found in Antarctica. A LH84001 is a 1.93 kilogram fragment of Mars. It crystallized 4.091 billion years ago, got blasted off the Martian surface by a meteor impact about 16 million years ago, drifted through space, and landed on Earth roughly 13,000 years ago. A NASA team led by David McKay presented 4 lines of evidence suggesting it contained microscopic fossils of ancient Martian bacteria, carbonate globules formed in liquid water, worm-like shapes resembling fossilized microbes, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and unusual magnetite crystals. The President of the United States went on television for this. That's how seriously people took it. But here's the thing. Subsequent research dismantled every single one of those 4 evidence lines. The worm-like features? Potentially just artifacts from uneven coating during sample preparation. The magnetite crystals? Reproduced through inorganic shock heating in 2001. The organic molecules? Attributed to abiotic processes like serpentinization. And in January 2022, a comprehensive study concluded that LH84001 did not contain Martian life. Case closed, except the story doesn't end there. Because this wrong hypothesis directly led to the reinstatement of NASA's Mars exploration program and the creation of astrobiology as a formal scientific discipline. A discovery that turned out to be completely incorrect arguably changed the entire course of space science. Sometimes being wrong matters more than being right, but if a Martian rock caused a presidential address, wait until you see what 3 Navy infrared videos did to the Pentagon. The Pentagon UAP videos. This is the entry that changes everything. Not because it proves aliens exist, but because the United States government officially said, "We filmed something and we don't know what it is." That has never happened before. On November 14, 2004, Commander David Fravor of the USS Nimitz was sent to investigate a radar contact that the USS Princeton had been tracking for 2 weeks. What he found was a white tic-tac-shaped object maneuvering in ways that defied every known principle of aerodynamics. No wings, no exhaust. No explanation. Weapons Systems Officers Lieutenant Commander Chad Underwood captured it on infrared video. 2 more encounters followed in 2014 and 2015 involving the USS Theodore Roosevelt, producing the gimbal and go fast videos. The Pentagon officially released all 3 on April 27, 2020, after initially denying they even existed. That official acknowledgement is what separates this from every other entry on this list. In 2023, Fravor testified under oath before a House committee hearing that the technology we face was far superior than anything that we had. This isn't an anonymous Reddit post. This is a career naval aviator putting his reputation and legal standing on the line in front of Congress. Now, to be fair, skeptical investigator Mick West proposed that some of the pyramid-shaped footage resulted from bokeh. an optical effect where out-of-focus light takes the shape of the camera's aperture. And a 2023 Pentagon analysis of separate footage concluded it showed commercial aircraft. These are valid points, but here's what matters. The official Pentagon UAP report stated these objects probably lack a single explanation and probably represent physical objects. The US government hasn't claimed aliens, but they formally admitted they have footage of things they cannot identify and cannot explain. That's unprecedented, and if you think official acknowledgement is as far as this goes, wait until you hear what a former intelligence officer told Congress under oath, the David Grusch whistleblower testimony. David Grusch is not some random guy with a blog. He spent 14 years as a U.S. Air Force intelligence officer, reached GS-15 civilian level, and served as the National Reconnaissance Office's representative to the UAP task force before becoming co-lead for UAP analysis at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. His credentials are the most verifiable of anyone on this entire list. And in July 2023, he sat before the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability and said something that shook the world. He testified under oath that he was informed during his official duties of a multi-decade program to retrieve and reverse engineer non-human spacecraft, that the U.S. government possesses multiple craft of non-human origin, that non-human biologics had been recovered, and that people may have been killed to keep these programs secret. Here's the thing, NASA confirmed that extraterrestrial life has yet to be discovered. The Pentagon denied the program exists. General Mark Milley stated he had never encountered evidence verifying Grusch's claims, and SETI Institute senior astronomer Seth Shostak summarized the core problem perfectly. Where is the evidence? It's MIA. Grusch claims to have interviewed 40 witnesses over 4 years. Every single one remains anonymous. No photos, no documents. No physical artifacts have been publicly produced, and that's exactly why this entry sits at the top of this list. Not because his claims are proven, they aren't, but because a credentialed intelligence officer filing a formal whistleblower complaint and testifying under oath before Congress represents the highest tier of institutional seriousness ever applied to an alien claim. It's impossible to fully dismiss, and it's impossible to fully believe. The most credible alien claim in history is still just a claim. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.